Welcome to Peacebuilding Initiatives with José Barzola. Peacebuilding Initiatives are collaborative ways of developing healthy, positive relationships via dialogue, cross-cultural understanding, and exploring ways to shift our own perspective to build compassion and empathy within our communities. So thank you for joining us today. On today's episode, we have Mr. Marcus Moore, who's currently pursuing a master's degree in music composition at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Marcus is an accomplished performing artist, composer, and teacher with credits in many areas of the music industry at the local, national, international levels. When he's not creating music, Marcus spends his time investing in other artists, young talent, and within his circles of influence. And it has been really, I have to say, a joy to know you for it seems like ages, but I think it's been less than a year that I've known you.
No,
But I gotta say, it's always a treat to, talk story with you and see where these conversations go. And I one kind of I'll turn it over to you if there's anything specific you want to say. Otherwise, I can get
just
started with
hello,
some questions.
hi, I'm here.
All right. Thank you. Um, I really love learning about people's journey and their inspiration. Like, what are the dominoes that kind of lead us to where we are?
Mhm.
And since your bio talks a little bit about this master's in music composition that you're doing, um, I kind of wonder how has your academic journey shaped your approach to music? Because I know from my experience of working with and knowing other artists, because I consider you an artist or a creator,
Mhm.
um, there's definitely a lot more guidelines or restrictions, I feel like, when it comes to academics than within the world of just being a true creator. So, just wondering, yeah, how has your academic journey shaped your approach to music and what led you to pursue an advanced degree?
Okay. That has a couple different components to it. Well, my particular journey, I'm what you would call a late bloomer. I started a little late in music, and like in the Western sense, most people will start like I don't know if this is completely accurate, but at least in Georgia, we would take general music classes in elementary school. But unfortunately, the funding got cut while I was in elementary school, so I wasn't able to always do choir. It wasn't something like I did it for my first couple of years, and it went out my like last 3 years of school in elementary school. So when I went to middle school, we had a choir, but the choir program got cut, and so I was originally into singing, and so I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm just not doing music anymore. And that was Kid Me. And it was just fun back then. I didn't really take it too serious. I just enjoyed it. But I was approached by the band director my eighth grade year, and she had a clipboard, Miss Sandra Daniels, and she was just we were in the gym, and at the time she was walking around with this clipboard, just asking people if they wanted to sign up for band for the fall. Like she asked me when I was in seventh grade, so for when I went to eighth grade if I wanted to do band, and at first I told her no, and then my friends to my side were like, actually, you should do it. It's an easy 100. Like they just straight up said it to me. I said, oh, sure. And then I told her, I was like, okay, you know what? I'll do it. I'll just do it. And now 20 years later, over it's a completely different story. I mean, over 20 years now. But yeah, I started, oh gosh, it's almost been 20 years. It was 2007. Oh wow. Oh, we're getting there. But yeah, I ended up doing band for that last year, and I had ended up enjoying it a lot, and I transferred schools a lot for high school, but I had very good band directors with a wide array of talents, and it was tricky growing up because I didn't have all the resources I needed, like financially, to be well supported in music, because buying an instrument is expensive. So I was using school instruments, I was borrowing instruments from my friends, but I was able to, my sister gave me her clarinet to use, and then one of the band members in my second high school I went to gave me a clarinet. And his mom was so nice. She was like, yeah, just use it. Just use it. And I used that to get me through. And then my band director gave me his personal clarinet, and that kind of started the whole thing. And so I am what you would call like classically trained. I took lessons in high school and I started getting really good really quickly. I ended up doing like honor band and region band and all state band, and I got accepted to multiple colleges. Scholarships were coming up, and I'm again coming back to the late bloomer. Most people start much earlier than I did, but I started late, and but I started taking it very serious. I practiced like 6 to 8 hours every day, finding the time to
Amazing.
annoy everyone. Like
No,
as
that's
soon as I got home
amazing.
from school, I would practice until it was like lights out. On the weekends, I was just in my room practicing all day long. But it was around my senior year of high school. The decision was coming up on if I really wanted to pursue music at the collegiate level. And before I took all those auditions, I didn't have actually at that point, my band director who gave me that horn to use, he went to another high school. And so I was like, oh, if I don't have my own clarinet, I actually won't be able to do this. But I was very fortunate that there was a clarinet member in my studio, a private studio. We all, like a group of us all taking lessons with one person. He gave me a horn to just have, like a nice intermediate level clarinet. His name is Barrett Ham. He's now the bass clarinet player for the New York Philharmonic, oddly enough.
Amazing.
He's
Oh,
a really
this is the
great guy.
village.
Yeah, but it's crazy how small the world is now. But he did that act of kindness all the way back then, and that helped me win all my auditions. And so I went on to the collegiate level, and I didn't really understand the concept of artistry per se. I always kind of followed whatever my conductor did. I believed in art, but I didn't see myself as an individual. I always thought of myself as an ensemble player. But that changed while I was in college. I started to understand that there is individuality even amongst ensemble musicianship because I had very good teachers and great like instill that in me. My clarinet professor, Dr. Kenneth Long, the flute professor there at Georgia. I went to Georgia State University. The former flute professor, Sarah Ambrose, she was really great with that, and the director of bands there, Robert Ambrose. They were really solid in teaching me how to be artistic, in not only in the ensemble setting but in the group setting. So that was like a seed was planted, and while in academia, it was easy for me to invest in my artistry and to sort of get out of the sit and study and practice all the time because I just believed in I already had came from practicing 8 hours a day. So learning how to play things was quick. I'm like, well, as long as I can play your music, I can go do whatever I want. And if I come to rehearsals and I'm prepared, I go to my lessons and I'm prepared and I'm getting my homework done and it only takes me like 20 minutes to do it, that means I have the time to do all these other things. So I actually stopped practicing so much so that I can go sit in a lot of different groups and just go take auditions and all this stuff. So I was allowed to do all these things without being heavily like like fortified. Not there was not a lot of like how would I even describe it? I wasn't they were strict on me, but it wasn't like I was doing bad. It was be they I was doing so well in school that it allowed me to branch out. And I don't have the same sort of academic experience that other musicians have where they didn't like some people don't have the opportunities to go and audition for orchestras like in their younger years because most of the regional orchestras, the members are already well established. I saw the opportunity for myself, and then I won an audition for the Atlanta Philharmonic, did that. I saw an opportunity to play with one of the premier new music ensembles there, Terminus Ensemble. So I went ahead and I did that. And then I saw that my boss at the time for this middle school that I was working at, teaching clarinet lessons, she signed me up to play in the Georgia Wind Symphony. And she's like, we would like to have you, and we're going on tour. You should come with us and you'll meet more people, which that turned into more gigs. So it was like school helped me learn all the ways that things have worked and gave me a lot of gave me a lot of knowledge to be able to approach what I was actually doing. So if I was sitting in a classroom setting, I could actually go back to my studies and then go, okay, I did learn this in some of my undergrad music ed classes. I can apply this here, but I also have experience not just in the classroom setting. So it's not like I'm just a deer in the headlights. I know how to get these things because now I've sat and I've sat under and watched these people do it for years, and now I also have a little bit of this own knowledge, and so all of it sort of culminated to now I have my own unique approach to it, and one that became very successful with me in my own studio and with my students. And so now what led me to go to the master's approach was I won an audition after finishing my undergrad to play with the Marine Corps field bands. And I, for a long time, thought I was going to go get a master's degree, go get a PhD, or we call it DMA in our side of the field, get that and go become a professor, win another orchestra job. But that opportunity came up like the other ones, and they are like, you should just take the audition. You're not signing up for the Marine Corps just because you take the audition, but you should see what you can get from the audition. So I took the audition, scored really well. They said you can go wherever you want. I said Hawaii. And they said yeah. So I came here. But while I was in the Marine Corps, I got to really invest in that artistry aspect of my playing because the Marine Corps was very good about promoting us and supporting us through any sort of ideas we had. And when COVID hit, that's when I really had I was able to branch out more because I started using my own platform. And then the Marine Corps was really investing into the concept of community outreach. So we were doing a lot of stuff within the local community, national and international, within the virtual space. And I grew a lot from that. But then I started to realize some of the things that I wish to do or the things I wish to hear are not things that I can accomplish while in the military. Granted, I love them. I love my job. I love the Marine Corps, but I knew that this route would have me moving a lot to places that were not very indicative for the music composition side. Like you have to invest time into a community to start getting people to play your music. You have to invest a lot of time into the composition process to get some of your ideas written, and the Marine Corps requires its own time. And I was doing all of this while in the Marine Corps, but I had to make a choice between performing artist and ensemble stuff where I started, or do I just jump and take a leap of faith into something I do not know anything about, which was composing? I just said, oh, well, let's jump. Let's take a leap of faith. And yeah, that sort of led me to coming to school here at University of Hawaii. I had options to go to other schools, but what came through all of that was I saw what I was building here in Hawaii. I saw what I was doing with the local community because I volunteer out here. I've met other musicians. I performed with the local musicians here, and something about it. I've always been on the move in my life. Again, multiple high schools, even in college. I was not really doing a lot of stuff within school. I was out of school. Marine Corps already doing all this other stuff around the world virtually and then traveling. But then it came down to maybe I should sit for just a little bit. Like, what if I were to stay? I've never done that in my life. I've never sat somewhere. So I just kind of chose to stay here. Plus, I like the teachers here. They're very, very, very awesome. But awesome in a way to where they hold me accountable even when I'm excited. They have a way of bringing me down. They're like, okay, you can have lofty ideas and we get it. You can accomplish a lot, but this is let us help you. So this type of academia experience, this academic experience per se, it's been a lot more eye-opening because I have I would say a deeper understanding of what academia truly is. Like it's, of course, there's teaching of students, but there also is asking questions and answering those questions. My bibliography course here was the most eye-opening as it pushed me the hardest. I never thought it would be hard for me to write essays about questions that I had until I was in that course, and it made me ask questions at a much more simple but laser focus way. And that challenged me because I started getting into my artistry and I performed so well. I'm like, well, this has to work because I know how to make the performance work. But I'm like, now I'm not performing, I'm writing. But that's a different type of performance. I just equated it to another type of performance. So yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. You actually went a little bit into my next question. So talking about being a performer and a composer,
Mhm.
as you identify, do you find that one role influences the other, or how does performing your own music differ from composing it?
I don't like playing my own music, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, I dislike it. My music's a little hard, and I don't actually like playing my own music. I can play it. It's just really annoying. I get mad at myself. One of my composition professors actually talked to me about that specific thing. You know, I performed something for class, and it was like, "Hey, good job." And I got done. I was like breathing heavy. I'm like, "Oh, guys, I'm tired. I don't want to play anymore today." He's like, "You wrote it." I'm like, and composition means like good job. Perform means like Marcus, stop doing this. Just because you think you can play it doesn't mean you should try to do it. But I have fun. It's just I dislike it.
You
But
allude. That's amazing.
yeah, but I do think the performing side of the house is how would I describe it? It's kind of like, right hemisphere, left hemisphere of the brain, left being analytical, right being more holistic. The performing side of me is a lot more left side. Like I know how to make things sound certain ways. About I think about what the audience needs from the performance, but I spend most of my time working on the smallest details to portray that. I don't think from the right as a performer. Like I do feel the music I play, but I'm a lot more tactical, as a performer. Um, Not to say I don't get into it. I get really into performing and I love doing it and I am very passionate about it. But it is conceived from a place of analytical nature, very mathematical in my mind. But then I've learned through my training and through performing so much and having a lot of experience how to emote as if it's coming from that side. It's interesting. Like I tap into it, but it's most of my ideas are conceived from literally looking at the page and going, this is exactly what I need to do. And then a little bit of my training comes in. My teachers would tell me to do it this exact way. And then, having performed in so many different halls, oh, this is the space I'm in. So in order for me to make it sound this way in this venue, I must do this much more, or I have to take away less from here. And that gives me the ideal performance. Versus the composition side is a lot more simple. I don't think that deep about it. The concepts of which my pieces are conceived are a lot more deep and methodical, like my stories behind my pieces, but the actual composing process simply just comes from, I like that. I'm gonna write it. Just, I like the way that sounds. That's pretty, or oh, that's groovy, or that's fascinating. I really like that. I don't, I write it, but then the academic side of me, like having studied with the professors here at University of Hawaii, I know how to apply the analytical side to, well, this is the best approach to get the sound you want. Like this is the technique necessary to make this come into reality. Like you can't just have all of this in one space. What if you were to spread it out and then this instrument, it's more ergonomic to use it here versus there. So I've learned how to tap into the left to get into the side that it's conceived from. In the same way as performing, I've learned how to use my right side to sort of make the left side work. So it's kind of interesting how both of those work in my head. So I would say, in terms of how they work together, performer me does not think too much about the composing part. I think it is natural for me to know what will work, having played in ensembles, but composer me does not think about performer me either. Unless I write something a little too ridiculous. If I can sit there and go, I can't play that, I probably really shouldn't write it. And or unless I know I'm writing it for somebody who's a much better musician than me, then I will go that far. But 9 times out of 10, I'm like, okay, I can play what I write. But it's like, oh God, do I like it? Do I like playing it? No, then I should keep it.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. You spoke a little bit about um, you've done a lot of collaborations in your time.
Yeah.
Um, and we always talk about collaborations often key to artistic growth. Can you share a memorable collaboration experience and what you learned from working with other artists?
Yeah. I think the first time I ever did that was in high school. We would have these solo and ensemble evaluations. It was completely voluntary. But me being me, I said I want to play duets and trios with every person in the band, and so I would literally go in there with like 11 duets each year at the second high school I was at. And they all were just oh my, and the judges actually really liked me. They really, really liked me. For some people, it would have been annoying, but the judges were like, okay, what are you playing next? Like, okay, I'm gonna play this one on flute. I'm gonna play this one on clarinet. I have my bass clarinet here. I'm gonna play a flute duet. I'm gonna play another flute duet. I'm gonna play a clarinet and flute duet. I have a saxophone and clarinet duet. The judges really liked it back then. And so that was kind of it. Like it was more so learning how to coax people into my ideas. But I also understood what my friends enjoyed playing. So it wasn't like a just do this because I wanted. It was, oh, well, I want to play a duet with you. What would you like to play? And that's always been my thing. It's like I want to do this. If you would like to do this, how would you like to go about it? And that was something I believed in from a young age. And so that's affected me growing up. I think my most memorable collaboration of all time is currently the one I'm doing. Actually, Jonathan Seipert is a MFA student here in dance. And when I say here, I mean University of Hawai'i Manoa. And next week we're premiering a ballet together. I wrote the music, he did the choreography and a lot of the stage play, and he wrote the main story. I gave the gist. He conceived the story, but it's almost a 30-minute long ballet, and the whole process started in August of 2023 when I first got here. I met him and we both enjoy hip hop music, and so that turned into let's have coffee when as soon as the semester settles, let's go grab a coffee, let's just talk story. And we did, and then we were just like, oh yeah, we shared the type of hip hop music we like, and we ended up creating playlists for each other to share. And I mentioned to him I would like to see this like I think it would be cool if this were done as like a ballet. And he was like, really? It's interesting you say that. And so one thing led to this led to that, and then it turned into, okay, well, let's just do both of our master's projects together. I write a ballet, you can choreograph it, I give you the music, and then you present the dance. And so very healthy communication, always staying on board. Every single time I figured out what it is that I heard in my head, I'd send it to him and he would respond always so quickly and passionately. And then when it came to the rehearsals, in most settings, the composer doesn't really go to a lot of the rehearsals for most things. It's like, well, in my experience, whenever I'm premiering a new piece or I'm going on tour with the composer, usually they'll come right before we go, or they'll come to one rehearsal. Even the residency I'm doing next month in Oklahoma, I'm only going to be there for one physical rehearsal. Concerts the next day. Like it's a normal thing. But for these rehearsals, I've actually been going to majority of them. Like I'm coming each week to also see how he's doing it. And that in turn is helping me write out the piece as it's going and how to be exact in ways that help accentuate what they're dancing, what their dance movements are, and how to better conceive like transitions and how to help them emote better. It has been a learning process. And then what makes this particular ballet so cool is it is an Afro hip hop ballet, but it's also an all black cast, but all a different, we're covering the music itself covers a wide array of different styles of Afro music that I grew up listening to. But then the dancers themselves come from so many different backgrounds. Like we have one young lady who is Japanese and black, another one is like Trinidadian and Samoan, and we have another lady who is Caribbean, like from Trinidad as well. We have another young lady who from Atlanta, just like I am. It's just like all these different places. And it's interesting. They all come with different backgrounds, different experiences of growing up Black. And we're all in this space. And I'm like, well, this piece was conceived of it, and now it's actually this, and then it turns into this, and it's a lot. So this has been a hard project for me to work on because writing 30 minutes of music is a little taxing, especially as considering I've only been doing this for about, it hasn't even really been 2 full years since I started this composing journey. And I'm already writing 30-minute long ballets. And I'm like, okay, this is a lot, but it's working itself out. So the ballet is finished. It gets premiered next week. And right now, before we started the call, I've been making sure all the audio is correct, making sure it's as seamless as possible for the rest of the production, because now I've played my role. How do I better, how do I add even more to my role without stepping on anyone's toes? Well, I'm like, I can just hit the music out of the park and provide for them in ways that exceed their expectations of me. So yeah, it has forced me to grow in ways that I wasn't quite knowledgeable that growth could actually happen. So yeah, I'd say that's my favorite collaboration effort.
Thank you. And for those listening in, when exactly is this performance?
It starts it's January 29th, and there's a show each night up until February 2nd.
This is part of the MFA, BFA dance concerts, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Wonderful. I'll be sure to link it up in the
Yeah.
summary here.
Yeah.
So you'll be there every night, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Schoolwork and all other stuff is no, I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's
No,
like
no, no.
I'm already thinking ahead like 3 weeks from now. Yeah, I'm putting off papers to do this, but it's worth
That's
it.
that's amazing. Well, congratulations. Well deserved. It's just so exciting. It sounds like a beautiful friendship coming to fruition. How many times do folks get to say, this is what we produce as friends, right? As we got to know each other.
That's
That's
beautiful.
kind of
Yeah.
what I've been hearing from you. And so it's on stage next week. How exciting.
I know. I'm excited. I'm tired too.
Yeah, so I hope you do take some time to rest, most
I
definitely.
will. Well, I
Um,
still got homework to do.
yes,
So,
yes. You talked a little bit about the investing, the teaching and the mentorship that you do. And thank you so
mhm.
much for giving back. I think it's just so essential, so important to never forget and always. So you invest a lot of time mentoring other artists and young talent. What's one piece of advice you find yourself giving most frequently to emerging musicians?
Why wait to be great?
Ooh,
I even have like that's a I've even had that quote come from me from when I was young as
yeah.
something I would tell myself like, why wait? You can just be great now. Why wait?
I mean, earlier you talked about you wanted to go into singing. Have you thought about going back?
Why wait to
No.
be great? No.
Okay, you know your limits too. Okay,
Yep.
got it. Got it.
That
Okay.
has been very helpful in knowing when to
Because I'm
not
like, are you gonna
take
have a
certain
record
steps.
drop anytime soon? Okay.
Kid me liked singing because I didn't care. Adult
Yeah.
me cares about what I sound like. So you don't want to hear me sing.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought maybe there was a lost track out there. There was something in the works. Who knows? Maybe in the as you evolve
Leave
as an
that to
artist.
Beyonce.
Never
Leave it to
say never.
somebody who can sing. No, I'm not saying never. I just say I won't. Leave that to people who can sing.
You talked a little bit about Hawaii, and I would love to, we Hawaii is known for its rich cultural, stories, landscape. How has the island's environment influenced your music, both in
Oh, my
terms of
music.
composition and performance?
Performing. I'll start there. It's taught me to relax a little bit more as a performer. Um, I didn't mention this, but academia can be very hard on a young performer because the pressure put on you from the beginning is very intense. Because, and I think it's to tell young people what I believe it is, at least, is to show young people you have to understand that either you're doing this or you're not doing this. There is no in between. You're not partway a musician. You're not half a musician. Either you are doing this or you're not. And you have to choose the capacity as to what it is that you are going to be doing. It's all a choice. And it's beyond the technical training and the classes that we receive. it's a choice as to how much you're willing to put into it. There's a lot of sacrifice you have to do. And to me, I'm very grateful that the concept of practicing was never a sacrifice to me. It always came from a place of fun. But because of academia and seeing what some of my other colleagues have been through, both those that were working to achieve and those who had achieved, like to be able to maintain a really good position or a good gig requires a lot of energy and a lot of sacrifice too. And that changes you over time. It kind of hardens you up in a way to where the music isn't coming from the same place that it used um, to where, believe it or not, I would say my analytical side stopped being as present as it was. And I started caring more about what other people thought of me as a player rather than what it is that I was actually doing. So I think it's great here in Hawaii that once I got here, the military requires a certain like presence, but playing out in town, working with the artists here just helped me relax a lot more. Like it's not, I never strive for perfection. That's not the reason why I use my left side more. I just, I think for me, it's a puzzle. Music is a puzzle for my brain to figure out. And if I do, as I'm going to speak clarinet terms, if I raise the arch of my tongue this much and I vocalize with this particular vowel and I put this much back pressure into the note and I allow myself to relax my corners just a little bit, I could get this one sound for 2 seconds, but that's going to help the sound that comes 5 seconds after that. Like I think like that as a player is how every decision, every moment in the music relates to each other. And it's fun for me because my mind works that fast. So it's like I'm constantly aware of what's happening as I'm playing. But Hawaii helped me get back to it. Whereas was getting to a place as a player where it was, oh my God, do I sound good enough? How are my instruments? Will be clean enough? Or am I dressed well enough for rehearsal? Am I taking enough notes in my music? Do I look engaged enough? Like I'm starting to think about things that had nothing to do with the actual sound. And that started to affect me. It started to affect me negatively, but it also did make me a better player. It made me think less about making mistakes. And then here in Hawaii, it was exaggerated more because the musicians here, they're not so focused on this concept of perfection. They're focused so much more on what the setting is, I would say. Like where is the music taking place? Not so much the why. I feel like in academia, it's more so why are we playing this? Well, we're playing this piece because we just hit a century, and these are the people that are going to be there. Especially in the military, a lot of it was, well, these are the people that are going to be there, so we must play this. It was always a why, but here in Hawaii, it feels like a where. Where are you doing this? Like if I'm playing at the beach with my friends, we're here at the beach playing music. What? Why? Who in the world gets to say that they've played Mozart on the beach? I can say that. Who here can say that they've recorded Mozart on the beach? I have. Who here can say that they've gone and played Gustav Holst's music while looking at a volcano with four of their other friends? Me, like all these tiny things add up. Like it's so here in Hawaii, it's aware and things are happening that I've taken a lot more appreciation for. So even here, like with my neighbors, they're all very nice and they're very kind to me with my playing. And I try to be respectful and play at proper times when I do practice. But even the way they respond, it's like we haven't had a musician on the streets before, and there's a lot of older people here, and they're like, this just feels like such a blessing. Like it's nice when you play right before I go to sleep. I'm like, it makes home feel different. Like, wow, this is interesting. Like those things, I've tapped more into what does music do for people outside of music.
That's
Music is
beautiful.
not just for musicians. So that's what Hawaii did.
That's beautiful. You are. I was just thinking like folks who like maybe play a little classical music before going to sleep. Well, they get a live performance. Like,
They do for
yeah,
free.
yeah,
Yeah, but I would not have learned to appreciate that had I not come here. They don't
that's cool.
teach you this in college of there are, at least my growing up, and not that this is negative, a lot of the time in academia, you are playing music for your colleagues. You're playing music for music making people. That's what it is in college. If you're playing a band concert, 9 times out of 10, the other musicians at the school are the ones you're inviting to come to your concert. My recital is mostly filled with people who I went to school with. But here in Hawaii, a lot of the people that I've played for, not many of them were musicians. And I mean personally, like some of the concerts that I go to now, and I have people walk up to me are people who like music that have nothing to do with music. Like I've met doctors, I've met taxi drivers, I've seen chefs and but like all types of people just here at concerts. Like this is just something I wanted to hear because it was here. Like that's unusual to me. That's not how I grew up, but I'll take it.
Thank you, thank you. Um, kind of want to, as a side note, I'm like, later
Mhm.
on, you can let me know when your practice times are. I'll be sure to drive by to
Oh
appreciate
no.
some live
No,
music.
then that puts pressure on me to do it
I'm
each
just kidding,
time.
just kidding.
I do love practicing, but
Don't worry.
now, oh gosh,
Yeah.
adult me
Um,
doesn't do it as much anymore.
I you've had a beautiful journey as a musician, and
Mm.
obviously your journey's not done. It's going to continue to evolve, and um, I know I always hear this terminology of like success. So, what does
Mm.
success in music mean to you? Is it about
Mm.
recognition, personal fulfillment, or is it something else?
I think success is something that is not really quantifiable. I think it's a lot more personal than external. And if it's coming from a place of getting recognition constantly, then that's to me, it just feels like a thrill ride. Like you're constantly seeking a thrill of people wanting to tell you that it's good. I don't, I've taught students that have been that way, and I understand. Like if you perform, you want to be told it's nice. You want to be told that it's great. If you write a piece of music, you want people to like it. And I think that's an aspect of enjoyment, but that's not what I think the success is. I think the success for me is if it is what you intended for it is what you got from it. If you intended to only write it just for people to like it and you didn't get it, to you, that's not a success. But to somebody else, you don't know if there's a little person in the crowd, they saw you, you wrote the music, and that changed their life. Now they want to go do it. But you were not aware because you only thought of it from that one perspective and you didn't get 20 good jobs that day. What about that one person who may not even come talk to you, who will never talk to you, who goes home and says, I want to do that? So I just live with that in my mind. Like, I don't know who it is that needs it. I just assume that if I was put here on this earth to do this, then every time I get to perform is an opportunity to change somebody's life. And to me, that's success. Whether I'm teaching, whether I'm performing or I'm writing, I'm like, there, as long as there's one person who got something from it, that's what I deem successful. Now, there is pretentious me as well. That person does exist. And that is, I'm not a person that really strives for people to tell me that it was great because I believe it was great or else I wouldn't do it. So I trust that I know now I trust myself as a musician to always play well. I will never play bad. There will never be a point in my life where I'll be unprepared as a musician. I've been doing it for too long. Why am I going to start being lazy now? Like that takes discipline and that takes courage to just say no. Like I've had people randomly, and it works out really well. Like I've had teachers randomly call me up in class presentations, not just in class, but like at conventions or whatever. Hey, Marcus, can you come perform for us? Sure. Wow, I've never met somebody who would be so willing to do that. You've never met me then. Okay, cool. Where's the concert at? I'd go on the stage. I gotta play. All right. Just let me go look at the music really quick. Cool. And to me, it's like, I'm not worried. Like, what do I have to be
Thank
worried about?
you.
I've been doing this for so long. So to me, the success in those moments is the ability to choose that I'm not worried. Me choosing myself and me choosing to not be afraid to go on stage and do what I've literally been trained to do, what I chose to do with my life means that that's a success to me because I get to have an opportunity where I constantly do it. And I've met the other side of the house too, because this is an unfortunate aspect of music, or it's like I call it the outer ego. I feel like we have our internal ego, and then I consider the outer ego like the shared mentality that we all have. You could call it society, you could call it culture, right? But I feel like I call it the outer ego because I feel like culture is a lot more personal and society is a goal. I feel like culture is what it is. Society is a goal we are always trying to achieve, but that sort of outer ego is that stuff that exists, the nowhere that thoughts come from. And I've noticed things over in the years of how people will mock success because it doesn't meet their demands, where it's people's own idea of success now becomes the agreed version of success. And I don't subscribe to that. Like, well, you only had 10 people show up to a concert. Weren't you supposed to pack the house? What if I'm happy that for me, I'm like, I'm happy if only one comes. That's a success for me. I've literally have given a recital, my very, very, very first recital I ever gave. Not a church. As a young boy, I gave like a senior recital, like I performed for my church. But first true recital, I was a featured soloist for the Stonewall Music Festival. And this is like other big art, like classical artists in the Atlanta area, all coming in and supporting. And I attended it as a high school senior, well, graduated senior, and then I got invited to come do it the after my first full year of college, and so I did. There were literally only like four people there. There were two people I didn't know, the person who asked me there, the person who was on stage with me, and my roommate, and that was great. That was it. That's all I needed. I'm like, who cares? The next year though, I packed the house because I knew how to. I learned. I was like, well, what can I do if I want to pack the house? If that's part of my success goal, the goal is to learn how to promote myself, how I market myself and market this concert and go out in a way. What do I need to do to pack a house? Am I do is packing the house a goal to be successful to the person to my left and right? No. The success story in having a full recital the next year was, oh, I learned how to do that. That's the success. So you have to be willing to realize that sometimes it's not the actual performance that's successful. It could be the buildup, it could be the logistics. There's a lot of stuff that goes into what is considered to be successful as a musician. But that outer ego, it can snatch a lot of people up really quickly. If you're not careful, people will tell you, oh, well, I've performed for this many people, so this is what it is. You don't know where this person is on their journey. What if somebody's not ready to go stand in front of 5,000 people? I mean, the most I've ever performed for was about 72,000 at once. I did a Super Bowl halftime show, and then I'm like, well, there's like 100 million people on the other side of this screen. Don't think about it. Just perform. And I did, but to me, I'm like, not everybody needs that right away. Not everybody is prepared for what was successful for somebody else. Success looks different among each person. So I always like to think the most successful people are the ones where it's not quantifiable to them. It's justifiable. So yeah.
No, thank you. And I love you talked about modeling
Mm-hmm.
and you never really know who's watching because there's always someone watching.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Sometimes they're not going to be the one that is going to go up and tell you. Maybe, somewhere down the line, a couple decades later, they might reach out, but or maybe they
Yeah,
won't. But
maybe they won't.
and
It's
at the same
fine.
time, I imagine you had somebody that, you know,
I've had people that I've straight up would never go up and talk to.
Yeah.
Like I can't do that to Beyonce. Her security would like push me 50 feet backwards. I wish I could, but I literally can't.
She
So,
hasn't
I mean,
seen your
after seeing
talent
her
yet.
perform, it changed my life. Like, I was one of those moments. Like, there are literal moments, like, that's a moment. I clearly can't do it. But there are moments where I've also have been a little too nervous to be like, oh, I really, and 99.9% of the time, I'm going to go shake somebody's hand. But I think in my time, the only time it's so rare that it happens. It's things like I went to the Texas Music Educators Association conference and I got to see my favorite wind band of all time play. I just didn't have it in me to go find their conductor and shake his hand because the concert it was beautiful. And they had the Barcelona players there, this clarinet quartet that I love, and I'm friends with the bass clarinet player on Facebook. After that concert, I was just so moved. Like, I can't speak to you. I did text him the next day, or I think I texted him that night. That great job. That is amazing. You wow, did you play with so much presence? But I could not physically go up to him and speak to him. I just would have been out of word. I wouldn't have had the words. That was my and that later it's like that's my reasoning. That's one minutia amongst 8 billion other human beings. Who knows? Why other people won't do it, but that's not a deterring factor. It's like I just assume that my job is here. My job is to help move somebody, whether they come to me or not.
Yeah. And thank you also just for really just providing access, saying yes. I know that's always one of the most challenging things for folks who are asking, and so I imagine it's always a pleasant, kind surprise to be like, in looking at it from perspectives, because to you it's like it'll be what, like 30 minutes, an hour of my day that I just have to go there, do this, and it's and you never know, like, even if you don't know, it's just I started this whole conversation with, I always talk about the dominoes kind of tipping over, like you might be tipping some dominoes yourself of somebody else. And
Yeah.
so that, it's kind of exciting.
Mhm.
So you've had experience both local and international music scenes.
Mhm.
What are some of the biggest differences you've observed in the way music is created, performed, or consumed across different cultures?
Oh, that's a really good question. Beyond just the sound, it's fascinating. Okay. For example, like Japan, music and sound are used to help people understand what's going on around them. So, i.e., the train stations have little jingles, like indicating that this means this means that. While, you're on the train, if you hear, I got really good at being able to tell when this is going to happen because my ear was tuned to this. Okay, I heard that little dee dee, something's happening, right? Um, Whereas, the infrastructure is different in Tanzania, but it's like song was used as like an aspect of everyday life. So while I was out in Tanzania for a month, I made coffee with a coffee factory out on the Kilimanjaro. And from the moment we saw them, they said, we're going to sing. We always sing as we're making it. It was a really cool experience. But even walking out, I saw rice fields. I could hear people just doing their own thing. Like it's music to them is not just a way of passing time, but it's a way of understanding what it is that I'm doing. It creates a flow, creates a mindset, a mind like a mind flow of work music. And even like for America, I always sort of attune it to vibes where for instance, if you come into my home, I'm always going to have something playing, whether it be like some meditation music that I've written, or I like to listen to lo-fi a lot. But if you go to my mom's house, she's always going to be playing music too from her gramophone. And it's going to be like probably Michael Jackson, probably some old hip hop. Like we listen to a lot of Tupac growing up and a lot of Snoop. But my mom likes Sade and she just keeps that going in the house. So music to how I grew up was always an accentuator of the environment, an accentuation of the time. Like it helped move the moments. Like something I enjoyed a lot was we always had a road trip playlist because we would take road trips everywhere as a family and we would sing for hours, but we had this mega playlist of music all the way from the 60s up until the current era. And especially, oh God, when Mariah Carey came on, trust me, you did not want to be in that car. She sounds great. We did not. Well, my sister and my mother can sort of actually kind of sound good. It's just then there was me. But yeah, like that was that for us. Like music always was used as a means of connecting as a family and to sort of set the mood per se, similar to lighting a candle and getting the smell right. Music got the vibe right. And that's what I've noticed here in the West. But yeah, out in Africa, it was and these are based off my lived experiences. I'm not saying that this is exactly what it is, but based off my lived experience, I saw that music was used to help activity move along. And then in Japan, I felt like the music that I heard was to help people know, like realize what was happening around them. So it's just little things that I picked up on in different areas. And then when it comes to music consumption, I don't think there's much of a difference when it comes to how people consume music. Like, I mean, let's take physically, it's like either you're streaming it, CD, record player, whatever. I've seen people use record players in both Japan, Tanzania, and America. I've seen people stream music in all those places. And even in the Pacific Islands, it's all the same how people consume music. Oh, yeah, everyone does it whatever way they like. But I've actually seen more people use Walkmans here in America still. Like that's a thing now. Hey, that's, I still like it. I like my CDs, but how it's consumed is it's varied, but that language is kind of similar amongst all the places I've been. But for the reasons why, I don't know if I really know the answer to that. That would take me peering into the mind of everybody. But based off what I've received, because I like to ask the question, why do you like to listen to music? I'll bring up three examples. Because I've only ever traveled, and I've been through Europe before, but only like just for travel. But I do have good friends in Europe. So I'll bring one friend in Europe, one from Africa, one from Asia, and one from North America. And one from South America because I've never been there yet, but I do have good friends there. We'll start with and one from Australia, New Zealand area. Um, I met a nice man and his mother out in Africa, and we ended up staying in touch. But yeah, and he told me for him like no, I have another friend in Australia. Okay, cool, six people. Um, my friend from Australia, this is my friend Ike. I met him. He came to Hawaii years ago, and he like we met over music. It was like a jazz concert. And to him, he says jazz always helps him sort of relax from the days that he has. Like it's a nice way to end the week. It's a nice way to experience a different culture because he travels a lot. So what type of jazz are they playing? What are they saying? And so we went to a very nice jazz concert out in Waikiki and just fantastic time. The music that was presented, it's you can only find this in Hawaii, you know, this type with this sort of Hawaiian feel. Maybe it's played other places, but this is authentic here. Like who the musicians from, I think there was a nice lady from Maui and the pianist was here from Oahu. Um, my friend, I have a friend in Japan, also a jazz guy. His name is Ramsey. We went to a record store that he likes to go to get his jazz records. And while I was there, I asked him, why should I listen to this? He was like, if you really want to get into a zone to where you just want to escape, this is why I put this on. And I got like recommendations from 8 albums. So my friend from New Zealand, to end his week. My friend from Japan to zone out. So here in America, one of my closest friends, his name is Glenn. The reason why he likes to listen to jazz is more so just it's from the analytical side. How and why does it work? Why did this sound good? Why does it feel the way it does? And me and him would sit and listen to music for hours with each other, connecting over, oh, this sounds really good. He actually did this chord right here, and then you put this on top of it. this is how you do it. And if I were to, and then like we're doing that back and forth, he always keeps his keyboard right there, and we would just be on the keyboard taking it apart. And that's how he enjoys it. Um, I have a good friend of mine. Her name is Lou. She's from South Africa, and I met her here in Hawaii too. We met at a party, on a birthday party, and we ended up exchanging notes about music because we were like, oh wow, you like the song? I like the song, but she's really big into Amapiano and Afro beats, which also there's a lot of jazz in there. But I ask her why she likes listening to it, and we share music with each other quite frequently. And she says to me, it just feels nice. Like that is the most simple thing. And I love that because it's also so deep. It's simple. It's just nice. It's nice to listen to. It's nice to dance to. It's nice in whatever setting it is. It's just nice. And we will listen to music like in the car. We listen to music as we were out walking along the beach, at the beach, everywhere. We were just listening to music, talking about what's so nice about it, not picking it apart as the same way I did with my friend Glenn in America, but the niceness of how it just feels nice to have this vibe, kind of like that where we're listening to this here. This is the right music for this particular location. It feels really, really, really good. And so though, and then I have German friends that I've accumulated over the years, like especially because of classical music. There's a huge classical music scene there. I'm friends with a opera singer, and for her, jazz isn't really like a big medium for her. However, at least when we talk about it, especially because me and her have talked about lo-fi a lot, and there's a lot of jazz elements in there in terms of the idea of improvisation, the time, the use of irregular rhythm or like harmonically, it's in there. Jazz chords specifically, it can be used in there very well. But I ask her, what it is that interests her about it, and it's how one can perform over it, how much emotion can actually go into it. Like with artists that are like that, we've talked more about pop artists who are in jazz, but it's that conversation of listen to how it sounds. Why is it possible for somebody to emote in this way? Like we can give this much. And very often she'll send me stuff via Instagram for me to listen to of people singing over things and people creating their own stuff in these settings. And not necessarily in the American jazz style, but in the improvisatory style, which, improvisation is a big aspect in jazz, but in the styles that she's more comfortable with as a performer, she sends that stuff to me, and I'm like, it's how people are doing it, the technique involved, but different from what the makeup of the music. It's the performance itself, it's the amount of energy, it's the loudness of something, it's the look at what they're, especially we talk about, look at what they're wearing in the performance, look at what they're doing with their body, look at all of that. It's a lot of the space and what the music is saying at a deeper level that we talk about. And that's just the perspective from those small connections on one medium. And I would not say jazz, American jazz in general, but the idea of improvisatory music and jazz. That's different cultures, all different reasons. And so it's all very interesting to me how people are brought into music. It's nobody has the same story. I mean, we can have similar stories, but I haven't met anybody in my lifetime that has the exact same story. And I tend to remember every single one of them too. It's one of my superpowers. But no, I haven't met any two people who have the same exact pathway. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much. One last question. I know we're getting close.
mhm.
But looking ahead, what are some of your long-term goals, both in terms of your own music and the impact you hope to have on the next generation of musicians?
A long-term goal would be to teach more and perform a little less. I do love performing. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I am getting to the point as a performer where I will only do it if I want to, not because I have to. And it's a blessing to be in that space because it's not for I don't perform for financial need at this point in my life. Like my work is now led to composition and teaching. Like I'm now I do gig in town and I get paid really well for some of these gigs, but more often now and that people are asking me, can you come play at the church? Can you come do this? Would you be willing to come play with us for this concert? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I don't really care. It's a performance. So right now in my life, it's showing me that I can just choose what I want to perform. And that to me is great. If I need to get back into heavy performing and that become like a financial means of sustaining myself, I know what to do. Go take an audition, go get in the scene, like show people, put things out. But right now I think about other ways of pushing myself forward, and that's making sure that my music is available for people to listen to. More times than not, do I have people asking, "Oh, is your music up on Spotify? Is it on Apple Music? Is it here?" I'm like, you know, I'm tired of getting asked that because I'm tired of having to say no. So I think it's that is like a goal of mine, a long-term goal is to just make sure that my stuff is available because I have people who genuinely like listening to my music. And it's weird for me because I'm used to the people enjoying hearing me perform, but now they enjoy what I write. So it's like, oh, I do need to make this accessible. So that's like a current long-term goal. And I I am a firm believer that one's job should feed into their artistry. And I think the job that I would want to help keep me sharp would be teaching because students have so many variables when it comes to how to work with them. Like, your learning style, you kinesthetic or you audio? Like that already is a big thing to think about in music, and that takes a lot of patience, like just those two things there. But then you think there's so many other things to consider when working with children and young adults and even grown people or people older than me. I've taught people much older, and it keeps me agile. It keeps me very nimble in my musical thoughts. So I think that is my ideal long-term job is to perform a lot less, teach a lot more, and the artistry that I wish to exhibit is the music that I write. And then my performing is now becoming back to a hobby. I practice more than I perform too. I just thought about that. I'd much rather just practice a lot more because I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you for
You're
just
welcome.
being so honest, so humble, so kind
Oh,
as you move forward, or just have been going on this journey of life and with all those that you interact with. I do want to mention for folks listening, you can go to www.marcusmooremusic.com
oh yeah.
to check out some of the wonderful work you're doing. And I believe there are a few recordings of some of the work that
It's
you
just a
have
couple.
performed.
Yeah.
I
More to
imagine.
come soon.
Yeah, more to come soon, and
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if we YouTube you or
Oh yeah.
But
People do
yeah,
that.
and then for folks definitely listening, there is the MFA BFA dance concert next week, January 29th to February 2nd at Kennedy Theater. Tickets are being sold right now, so I'll make sure to put this in the summary so folks know where to get tickets for
Mhm.
that, and maybe meet you in person as well along the
Yeah,
way.
I love to shake hands.
Yeah.
Or I'm more of a fist bump guy.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, no, I've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me. I can talk all day
Yeah, no,
long.
no, and I think I mean there's more iterations of conversations we can have, but thank you so much for
Mhm.
just for this initial conversation. I appreciate your spirit of collaboration. Not only uh do you say it in your website, but you show it in your
Mm.
actions. And so thank you for that, because especially in this world of trying to build bridges. Collaboration is really at the core of the work that
Yeah,
needs to get done. And thank you for speaking to the importance of, understanding different perspectives, having some compassion, empathy toward them, because it is so
compassion,
essential as
empathy.
we move forward in life to try to build a collective world where we can all coexist. So
Yeah, yeah.
thank you, Marcus.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for listening.
Yes, always a pleasure.
Maya, it's nice seeing you. I'll talk to you soon.